Now I lay me down, peaceful and unfazed. I opened up my eyes, and the whole world's changed. Naked emperors speaking foolishness. And the strange thing is, everybody's buying it. Do you remember how when we were young and we didn't care at all, the world could fall apart and in front of us we would never know? But we're older now, and inside us is a shifting in our soul. Our troubled hearts beat as one for all. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where we sit here safe and sound with just an hour and a half left to go before Title 42 is lifted. And the onrush begins.
And I can stay for good.
It's every man for himself.
Everyone that identifies as a man.
Hide your women, hide your children.
Well,
And I'm not saying that because of Hispanics. I'm just saying the cartels might have a little bit of say. Maybe some of the Russians that are coming across the border.
well,
maybe
it's organized somehow.
yeah.
I mean, migrants with nothing don't just get to the border by themselves. I mean,
Right.
There's not a magnet or anything. So
Well, we know that there's a lot of child sex trafficking going on, a lot of drug trafficking going on. We know that
I think the vast
women are getting raped.
vast majority of it is the southern border.
Yeah.
The drug supply, without a doubt, I think there's no question about it. And the same people who claim to care for women and children are the same people who favor open borders. It's just all about getting bodies here and getting them to vote, getting them a driver's license, getting them, free McDonald's or whatever. I don't know, child care. The impetus of bringing endless poverty and unskilled labor into a country, I'm just baffled at how anybody thinks that that's a good thing. But I'm an evil person if I think that. By the way, I know the song.
Yeah.
It's Paul Simon.
No.
Bridge Over Troubled Waters. Isn't that what it was?
No.
That's what you said.
I didn't say
I
troubled
heard
waters.
rewind the tape. I heard Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
This ain't the NFL. We don't have instant replay.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, I'm throwing my challenge flag. Where's my challenge flag? All right, enlighten
You're
us.
going to lose a timeout.
Yeah. I don't got none left anyway.
Well, time is one thing I think we're out of. All right. This song is
What's the time song? Huh? Time is wasted. Time's no friend of mine. What is that? Is that Hootie?
I don't know.
Hootie and the Blowfish?
Could be.
Oh.
I don't know that one. I don't know.
You don't know that one?
No.
Sounds 90s to me.
I wasn't a huge Hootie fan. A little bit. Some of the songs were all right.
Is the one guy Hootie? Which guys are the Blowfish?
I guess it's weird because that's one of those bands where like you call yourself Hootie and the Blowfish. Everybody calls you Hootie, but you don't want to be called Hootie. If I remember how that went down, he didn't want to be called Hootie because that wasn't his name. It's Darius Rucker. Right?
Oh, okay. Oh, that's who Darius Rucker. I've heard that name.
Well, yeah, he's doing country music now.
Yeah.
But it's funny because he didn't want to be called Hootie. Well, you called your band Hootie and the Blowfish. that would mean that the lead guy is Hootie and the band is the Blowfish.
Yeah, it's like Buck Owens and the Buckaroos, but
Right.
Buck Owens was the lead singer.
Right. Well, what do you think?
So it's not Garfunkel and Simon?
No.
Oh,
the song is called Our Troubled Hearts from none other than Jason Bradley.
Oh, really? Well, you said troubled in there.
No, I didn't say troubled.
Troubled?
Well, yes, I did.
Well,
our
some
troubled
credit for that.
hearts, not a bridge over troubled water.
Oh, fine. Whatever.
I'll explain this a little bit more when we get into the.
I'll say this, Jay.
the sign-off sermon. But
I didn't think you had it in you, but you rank up there with Robert Goulet.
yeah. Hey, I found
Just date myself a little bit there.
so that I didn't screw this up. I did make sure I brought up my lyrics on a website.
Oh.
You know how it gets when you're under pressure. That's kind of humbling to go out to somebody else's website and find your lyrics. I like that.
It's not you under an assumed name?
No, it's not. They actually have an app where you can get my song. Huh. Jiosaavn.com, JIOSAAVN.com. He's going to get more traffic now than he's ever
Free
gotten
pub.
in his life.
Free
So,
pub.
Thank you for having the lyrics up there and having my song. I appreciate that. Of course, it's always up on Spotify under Jason Bradley. You can find me. Find my current 3 new singles off Our Troubled Hearts album. And I'll talk about this song, though, more when we get into the sign-off sermon. So, yeah.
Okay. So the other songs, Satisfaction and Beat It, you can get those on Spotify as well, right, Jay?
Right. Okay. Right next to We're Not Gonna Take It.
What's the other one? What's the... oh, God. Eat It. Weird Al.
Yeah.
You know, the greatest part of the movie, the Naked Gun movie, is well, other than the fact O.J. Simpson's in it, is Leslie Nielsen comes up and he's at like a press conference and they all think they're here to see him. And the guy goes, no, they're not here for you. Weird Al Yankovic's on the plane.
Yeah.
Weird Al comes out. That's right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Jay, the media freak out going on. I don't watch Sunday shows much anymore because they're just, there's no point. I mean, there's no point in watching a bunch of sad faces. There's just, a bunch of negativity. I mean, there's just no reason to watch that.
Right.
But the freak out over this latest Washington ABC News poll, did you see this over the weekend?
No, I don't watch the Sunday shows.
Well, I mean, did you hear about the poll?
I guess tell me what it is.
Okay, the poll showed President Biden at 36% approval rating.
Oh, yeah.
There was an NBC poll that came out at 37. And this Washington Post poll shows Biden trailing former President Trump by 7 points in a general election and 5
DeSantis,
points against Governor DeSantis. Yep. And the media had a meltdown on Sunday.
Yes, they did.
I mean, George Stephanopoulos looked like you were leading him to his own hanging. I mean, he was that distraught. And everybody on there tried their best to spin it or claim it's not real or I mean, I don't know how that could be spun in any way other than a disaster. Now, look, I turned on Yahoo today, and they had a new poll out that showed things are even now or something like
really?
that. Like, boy, that was quick to get that out there just to change the narrative.
Oh,
but I got to say something. I got to say something about Biden's approval rating.
Yeah.
Because some people don't put a lot of stock into that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't either. But if he's in the 30s, he can't win. It's not possible.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make the case that the approval rating in your election year, I got a little bit of evidence here on my phone, is central to winning. In fact, President Trump's only one of the few people to outperform his approval rating. Actually, usually get lower. I'll just give you a couple examples. 1996, President Clinton, his average approval rating was around 52, 53% in 1996.
Okay.
He got just under 50% of the vote. So they were very close. 2004, President Bush was around 53, 54%, kind of depending. It's sort of the average. He got a little over 51% of the vote.
Okay.
President Obama, almost identical numbers. Around 53, 54%. Got about 51% of the vote in 2012.
Okay.
President Trump actually outperformed, which tells me this poll he's up by 20. That's what it tells me. But he got his average approval rating was around 45-ish, and he got a little more than 47% of the vote.
Okay.
So my point is your approval rating is a pretty close indicator of where you're going to finish. It's going to be off by a couple points. Voter turnout, there's state by state. Some states are a foregone conclusion, and I think the numbers will be depressed a little bit. But it's pretty darn accurate.
Yeah.
And I don't care if Donald Duck is running against Joe Biden. If he's at 36%, he can't beat anybody.
Right.
And I tell you what, if you look at the internals of this ABC Washington Post poll, by the way, no conservative outlet here. I mean, Disney and the Washington Post getting together. I mean, not hard to claim bias here. This is the most amazing stat.
Yeah.
say that it's something about President Trump being indicted. If he did something wrong, he should face legal consequences. But 20%, 1 out of 5,
Yeah.
said that they'd vote for Trump anyway. They said, I don't care if he's charged, I'd still vote for him. This is 1 out of 5 of people who think he should be
Yeah.
still say they'll vote for him.
I probably will.
No, that's astounding. That 1 out of 5 people who think he should face criminal indictment are still going to vote for him.
Yeah, I don't think he should face criminal indictment. I think it's a racket. But
of course it's a racket.
Yeah.
Timed to go to trial next
Right.
year, right in 2024, when that'll grab all the headlines.
Right. Yeah. But he knows how to spin all this stuff. You know, he's going to be able to take a look at this and say, all right, how do I take all this? And I mean, the whole reason they ended up not doing a mugshot, I think, was that he was going to end up putting it on T-shirts and mugs, and you know, he was going to take full advantage of that. So I like last night, this CNN town hall where they had him on. They thought that they were going to get the upper hand, and instead CNN got burned bad because they threw some former entertainment reporter at him, and she didn't know how to handle President Trump, that's for sure, and he made sausage out of her. So
I think President Trump's supporters are actually hardened by this.
Yeah.
It has the opposite effect of what people think it will have. I mean, when the federal government spends 5 years investigating something and doesn't charge somebody, that's a pretty good indicator that if a case could be made, a case would have been made by the Biden Justice Department.
Right.
And if they feel, nothing here, can't get, and to let it, I mean, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I still think President Trump's going to have some issues with Republicans.
Of course. There's some that just hate him and they'll never like him.
But I also think that's offset by, if you look at the states that he flipped and then lost by 0.1% with mail-in balloting and Arizona taking 6 months to count votes.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, and I want to say something about the election denying or the 2020. I want to say something about that after this.
Yeah.
That he has what he has lost, I believe he has gained in other sectors.
Yeah.
More unions endorsed President Trump than ever before. More poor people are actually voting for him. There's a shift going on. He has positioned him elites, which I believe is both parties. That's me.
Me too.
So I think he has gained where he has lost some. Now, let me say something here.
Yeah.
The idea, of this. Can I ask you a question? Why is it wrong of me? Because I have a lot of questions surrounding elections. You can call me whatever you want to call me, but I'd like to know, why is it Florida has all their votes counted by 11 o'clock on election night, and Arizona is still counting on Christmas? Why am I not allowed to ask? Why am I an election denier if I say, what is going on in this state?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say election denier, that is language made up by the left to demonize people that want to criticize the stuff that goes on, that it doesn't look good.
Can I go back to hanging
chads? Or not.
Can I go back to hanging chads and all that? Who was election denying that?
Right. Hillary
Bush
Clinton
stole the election.
Hillary Clinton is still denying that she lost in
Al Gore still thinks he won Florida.
Yeah.
Where's the election denying there?
Exactly. But
asking questions is fair game.
Right.
I mean, that's fair game.
It should be. And anytime something doesn't look like it's completely above water, it should be questioned.
It probably isn't.
Yeah, it probably
if it looks
isn't.
like a duck, it probably is.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Until I am shown proof that things were not screwy, I don't believe that they were done with integrity. I just don't. You know, I'm not one of those that
it was a stupid year with a lot of stupid stuff that went on.
I'm sorry, but when you have the rules for voting are supposed to be that laws for how we vote come from the Congress, and the Secretary of State then carries out the election in the manner that the state legislature approves of. So whatever the laws are on the books, that's what the Secretary of State does. We had a bunch of Secretary of States. This is a fact that will probably get us banned off of YouTube. But there were a number of Secretary of States that made up their own laws that did not run through state legislatures. And I'm sorry, that's fraudulent.
It's fraudulent, but...
it's illegal. Let me say that. It's illegal.
Well... I know what they're going to argue. They're going to argue extraordinary times, emergencies were declared.
I'm sorry. That's how Stalin's Russia runs.
That's how
that's
burning
how
of the Reichstag.
That's how Fidel Castro runs Cuba. That's not how we run things in the United States.
Well,
we have a process to make laws and then a process to enforce laws. And when you no longer have that, you have a banana republic, and that is ridiculous. And that is not all right.
And banana republics are not very appealing.
Oh, boy. Wow, that's...
Yeah, I entertain myself. I don't even need you here. I can entertain myself.
Oofta, as we say in Sweden.
You know, I got to say this.
Yeah.
I was in Utah. One time I was in Salt Lake City, and I said oofta. Now I got more funny looks. The only other time was when I was in California and ordered a Leinenkugel honey Weiss. And the guy looked at me, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh, wait. I'm not in Minnesota or Wisconsin anymore. What do you got? Budweiser? All right. You know, it's just, I got to say, Minnesota for the beers. I mean, there's not a lot of states that have the microbrews and the
really?
You go to a lot of states, it's Budweiser, Bud Light, like two Coors. I mean, obviously,
really?
You go to
that hasn't caught on other places.
No,
Is it not allowed in state?
I don't know.
Statute?
And
or?
I'm going back a ways, too.
Yeah.
But outside of Minnesota and Wisconsin, Budweiser so much is the king of beers. It is it is incredible how much beer they make and have. It's unbelievable. But, yeah, I don't know. And obviously Coors out in Colorado. And it's amazing, too, how many different kinds of Coors there are.
Yeah.
But, you know, you get Coors Light, and that's the only thing you'll find anywhere outside of Denver. So
right. Anyhow,
I digress. So, just hilariousness. If you have some time, YouTube George Snuffleupagus. You want to watch a funeral, do George Snuffleupagus, you know, former aide to President Clinton, the fair and balanced reporter there.
Right.
On Channel 5 on ABC. On what Slay the Nation or whatever the show is. Doesn't matter. Because the Sunday shows all suck anyway.
Yeah.
Last good one on Sunday morning was the late Tim Russert, and he's been dead for a long time, 14 years or something now.
Huh.
But you know, a long time.
Yeah, his replacement is
who is
Chuck
it now?
Todd?
Oh,
isn't
God.
it?
F. Chuck Todd.
Oh,
goodness.
oh, just terrible.
Horrid. All right, Jay.
Yeah.
Onward we go.
Yes. I noticed you didn't say upward, just onward. There really is no upward with this, is there? It's all right. No. It is, you know, we're all focused on the 2024 election, you know, and that's a big deal, and we're going to be hearing a lot more about that the further and further we go. We've got, 3 Democrats in the race. We've got a handful of Republicans in the race. But there's elections.
Not many. Yeah.
There's elections happening this year.
Unfortunately, there are quite a few of them.
Yeah, and those often don't get a lot of play. You know, we've talked some about odd year elections. I think that we need to revisit that and talk about why they're terrible, and give you some proof.
Well, I think, why are they terrible? Well, I mean, you just start with the fact that, unfortunately, in this country, and there's, 100% know how to fix this, but we have a top-down view of Election Day, Jay. I mean, the top of the ticket is what brings out the people. You know, it's that governor's race in the non-presidential year.
Yeah.
It's the presidential election, maybe a Senate election too. But it's the sexy jobs that bring out the voters. And when you don't have the top of the ticket, you get a very small percentage of people to come out and vote.
Well, we see it even in even years, you know, where you look at say a precinct, and you look at the number of votes that a governor or a president or senators get, and then you look at the number that city council people get or county commissioners get, and it's always less. There are people that just don't vote in those races for some reason.
I'm cool with that. If you don't know anything about it, leave it blank. I mean,
but you should.
You should know.
You should know.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who just vote for the sexy jobs, and then
the people locally jack you around a lot more than the people do in St. Paul or Washington for the most part. I mean, this Minnesota legislature excluded.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, the legislature just pisses and moans and does nothing. I'm pretty much cool about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think what's wrong with it is, you know, we have a constitution and we have an election day, and it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday. And I don't think the intent of the Constitution is to just, okay, that only covers a presidential race and everybody else can just elect whenever they feel like it. I mean, I think it's kind of silly to expect voters, you know, to come out on this day for a referendum and this day for this election and this township election and this, you know, I think primaries and stuff on top of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's absurd to expect voters to do all that. And I think the public needs a break from elections.
Right.
You know, the campaign cycle's long enough. I don't want it in the odd year as well. And I think if you look at election results, they sort of bear out that turnout is way down, as you might expect. And I always come back to, how does anybody elected with 5-10% of the voters claim any kind of representation of anybody?
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not fair to game the system. And by the way, it is gaming the system. I mean, if you do not hold your elections on the day where everybody is voting, okay, you're clearly doing it for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can claim, okay, well, local control over our own races. Okay, but why? It doesn't answer the question of why. Okay, fine. Hold your election on Christmas. But why?
Yeah. Well, technically, I mean, you do have local control over your elections because the county is the one that oversees the election. And they administer the election, and then you've got the various precincts. So you have control, you know, over the integrity of it, over how it's run. You just shouldn't be able to.
You have control over your
determine when it
is. I mean, I don't get how. I don't get what the argument is to have an odd year election.
Right.
The only thing I could think of in my mind, if I had to have an answer, is it's easier to control the outcome.
Absolutely.
And by the way, I mean, you and I are going to kind of pick on cities here.
Yeah.
But that, to me, that's really not even. It's a big deal because of the cities that we're talking. Minneapolis, St. Paul, Duluth. I mean,
St. Louis Park.
Big cities in this state.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's a big deal because of that. But the bigger deal to me are referendums, school district elections.
Yeah.
I mean, they're much bigger. They cover a lot more. I mean, and how unfair is it to have a school district election than you don't have a city election? You have a city election and you don't have a school district election.
Right.
I mean, it is to have a referendum during that time. Again, the only reason to do it is to do it so you can control the outcome. You know, if you get out X amount of people, you can win. It's not about representation. It's about getting what you want. And so
Right.
But that's where I just don't get the impetus for this. And I'm going to say something to people who want to change this. There's a lot of people that would say to you and me, you can't pass a law. You got to have local control. Blah, blah, blah. You know what? The hell with that. Sometimes our elections are so important, they deserve uniformity.
Yes.
So I don't care about the local control argument. Take your libertarian crap and go smoke a bowl. Okay? Just get out of here. I don't want to hear it. If you can't agree on an election day, then, do you want 300 different election days? So to me, I think there should be. It should be even in the Minnesota Constitution. Even a constitutional change I would support, because I think it has to be that these elections have to happen all on the same day. There should be one primary day, one election day every 2 years, and that's it.
Right.
Period.
Now, I'm gonna throw something in there. I'm gonna throw a curveball, of course.
But I hit curveballs.
Yeah. Well, okay. This will be more of a EFAS pitch then. Special elections, I think, are the one caveat to that, because too many local bodies appoint people, and they appoint their friends, and they find people that think just like them, and it just strengthens the majority. I hate appointments. Special elections are the way to go. Now, we can have a discussion.
They're different.
We can have a discussion about whether somebody can wait until the next general election and leave a seat vacant or not. That's a different discussion that I'm willing to have. But when you're looking at these kinds of things, and your odd year elections still happen on the first Tuesday of November, but you have townships and you have things like special elections for referendums, school referendums and stuff that could happen on any day of the year, basically. And that's craziness too. Theoretically, you could have a township election in March and then have to go do a school board election in November, right?
Of course.
And that's all in an odd year, and then you have to vote again the next year, for the general election stuff, and that's just craziness. And we'll go through later some of the turnout in these cities. And show you exactly why it's a bad idea. But go ahead.
Well, I think that special elections, I think you're right. I think you could, again, make rules for that. Charter cities often do. Charter cities might have it written in their charter of when they can fill a vacancy, how many days until a primary or a general election. I know Crystal does, and there's some other cities that I'm sure they do. They probably all copy the same language, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
It's probably somewhat uniform. But special elections are one thing. I hate appointments as well, and I don't think they should happen. I think somebody should have to earn an election and be voted in, and not, have the council get to pick who they want to work with, which I think is crazy. I mean, what if 40% of Congress resigned and the speaker got to pick who they wanted to? How fair would that be?
Exactly.
Come on. Something happens, you have an election. There's a process governed by the FEC to do that. There are rules on appointments, but those rules are pretty uniform. I mean, and it has to happen within a certain amount of days. We went through that here in Minnesota with Tina Smith, and we went through it with Dean Barkley when Senator Wellstone died as well. There are short-term appointments that do. They don't have to be. You don't have to appoint somebody.
Right.
So, I mean, there's always that. But yeah, special elections are different, and but I'm okay with a vacancy. I mean, I'm okay. We got a year to go. I'm all right with leaving that seat empty. I mean, although the only thing that bothers me about that is where there's wards.
Yeah.
I don't want a ward not represented. If it's
That's true.
large, it's like, well, what's the big deal if you have 6 votes instead of 7? Y'all usually vote unanimous anyway, most councils. So.
But that's a whole other podcast where we talk about how terrible
so
at-large seats are. But
I would just argue that again, anything's better than an appointment. Now I gotta say, Jay, when I look at, I just want to start with Duluth.
Okay.
It's not that easy to, because only 2 elections were contested. This is another problem.
Yeah.
Only two elections were contested in Duluth in 2021, and they were the at-large seats. Now, the at-large seats, 55,416 people in Duluth were registered to vote 7 a.m. on Election Day.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to throw another curveball in here. Maybe it's a little bit of a split finger. Minnesota has same-day voter registration. So it's possible that figure was exceeded. We don't know, obviously.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, that figure could have been higher. And the leading vote getter for an at-large seat had 7,959 votes.
Wow.
So that is 14.4%.
Right. Yeah. So this is council member at large.
Now, and also keep something in mind, you had to vote for 2.
Yeah. Right.
So that you could cut that in half.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean,
not everybody voted for 2, I'm sure, but
right.
But and then the other, what is that name? Therese Tomanek. And then the other person, Azrin Azawai. Boy,
Azrin Oswald.
You could say they represent Duluth.
Azrin Oswald.
Yeah, you know.
Yes.
So that was the big thing there, and another person got 6,800, then 6,100, then somebody got 1,300. And so there were, 20,000 votes cast, but divide that by 2.
Right.
And that's
about
the real
10,000 people.
10,000 people out of 55,416.
Yeah.
What's that? Less than 20%.
Yeah. That's voters register higher than that, keep in mind.
Well, sure. Yeah, no doubt about it. So
I mean, all those people too. Where are you? Why are you not voting? You know?
Probably because they wanted to vote none of the above.
Well, they could still be registered, though.
Where's Benson, Minnesota?
Benson, Minnesota? Oh, goodness. Let me look that up. But first, let me just say, population of Duluth, Minnesota is currently 86,372. So about 60% of those people are, ballparking there, are registered to vote.
Well, now that's not people 18 and above.
There's some underage people there, yeah. And I'm sure
Minnesota is one of the better states when it comes to voter registration.
Yeah, it is.
By the way, in Benson, Minnesota, there was a council that got a tie vote. I wonder how they decided that.
Yeah, Benson, Minnesota. What?
Where is it though?
Hold on a second. Gave me an error here. Benson, Minnesota. All it says is city in Minnesota. Let me find. What stink? It's giving me an error. I don't know.
Wow!
What?
They actually had something on the ballot.
You know what? Let me look here. Yeah. Oh, is that what it was?
Hold on. Yes, just change the elections.
Benson, Minnesota is. I'd say it's got to be 45 minutes to an hour northwest of Wilmer.
Okay, so it's way out west.
If you drew a line, it's almost halfway in between Alexandria and Montevideo.
Okay.
It's a little further towards Montevideo in the south.
So it's CD7.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it might be 7 there. 7 is pretty narrow. I think it's 7. I do think, yeah, it's probably 7.
All right.
Just looking at where that is.
So listen, this was last updated. 1,867 registered voters. Council member at large, vote for 2. They each got 132 votes.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that was decided. But so if you divide that by 2, 132 people voted out of 1,867. Question 1 on the ballot. The election date moved from odd to even years. It passed.
Oh, that's good.
123 to 37. So
That's
160 people came out to vote. I mean, it's good result, but
Well,
160 people voted.
160 people out of how many registered voters?
1,867.
1,100. What?
1,867.
1,867. I mean, that's really 8.5%.
Yeah.
8.5% of the city comes out to vote, and that's that's supposed to be the will of the people.
Well, I'll take the result, but
Yeah, but I mean, this is this cuts both ways. That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
It cuts both ways.
Independence, Minnesota.
Oh yes,
Right on the border of Hennepin County, correct?
with Wright County. Yes.
Yep. Council people elect 2. We have Marjorie Ritter, Brad Lee Spencer, Brad Lee being 2 words,
Oh boy.
and Linda Betts. Betts.
Okay.
Elect 2. 2,815 registered voters.
Huh.
Guess what the leading vote getter got? Brad Lee Spencer.
Well, I could tell you because I'm looking at it.
Oh,
You still
well,
want me to
that's
guess?
not fair.
Okay.
There's no drama there.
Sorry. I could give you a drum roll. So he got 409. But here's the thing. He won by 16 votes. 16 votes over the next person.
They both got in, though. It was Marge Ritter
Yeah.
who finished, 50 votes, 60 votes behind. I mean,
But here's the thing.
it's ranked choice voting right there.
Again, though, I mean, you have such low turnout that the difference, those 16 votes, normally would trigger a recount, but not here because it was
0.5% or less it has to be.
how much?
0.5%.
Yeah, 0.5. And this was this was not
1.5%
almost, yeah. So and if we're looking at that, I mean, total number of votes, we're looking 1,000, 1,100,
write-ins.
1,200.
And then divided by 2 because it's elect 2.
Oh yeah, isn't it? So 1,100 divided by not 11. 1,100 divided by 2, and then we divide that by the registered number of voters. How many are registered?
2,815.
2,815. They had almost 20% show up.
Oh, my
so
God.
that's burning it up.
Woo!
Woo!
Come on, Duluth. Where are you?
They were at 11%, by the way. I went and figured that out.
Duluth,
so
PU.
11% in a city of 86,000.
Lonsdale, Minnesota.
Yes.
By the way, I mean, think about that stop for just a second.
Yeah.
Duluth, a top 5 city in population, and somebody is sitting in that council who got 7,000 votes.
Yeah. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick. Okay. Lonsdale, down south of here.
Yeah.
2,712 voters. Council member, let me see. This might be only elect 1. They might have had decent turnout.
They had 2. There were 2 different elections. Now, this is interesting. Tom Rudd with 1D. This was for mayor. got 396 votes. There were 303 write-in votes against Tom Rudd. That's how popular he is down
Seymour
in
Butts
Lonsdale.
must have been
Oh
missed
my
the deadline.
word! That says something. Anytime you get that many write-in votes against you, there's a problem.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. If you look at the council member, Scott Polava only got 482 votes out of the 2,712 registered voters.
Huh.
So once again, oogly.
Yeah.
But let me. But again, I think one thing to notice is a lot of this is in the Twin Cities, and some of it isn't.
Right.
I don't consider Independence part. I mean,
I guess technically it is.
I guess technically it's in Hennepin County, but
Yeah.
Benson certainly is not.
No.
Here's another one: Cottage Grove.
St. Peter's definitely not. Well, we'll get to that, but
Cottage Grove
yes.
had a ballot question
Okay.
about bonding. It did not pass.
Wow.
25,006 registered voters,
Yeah.
and the no vote won with 4,260.
Now hold on. 8298 total votes divided by how many registered voters?
25,006.
25,006. 25,600 or 25,006?
25,006.
Okay. 33% in that one. Not bad.
They must have felt very strong about not having
Yes.
a bonds for a community center or whatever it was.
Good on them.
Why don't we look at a couple school districts, Dave?
They do have organized garbage hauling down in Cottage Grove.
Do they?
Yes, they do.
That I did not know.
Yes.
This is okay. This pisses me off.
Yes.
Even though the no vote won, it still
Okay.
pisses me off because it's cut both ways. New Ulm School District referendum. The no vote won with 1,230. There were two questions. I mean, the results were close, so we'll just do question one.
Okay.
1,231 no's,
Yeah.
1,143 yeses, 12,686 registered voters.
Yeah. That's
So you're looking
terrible.
again at probably less than 20%.
Yeah, let me figure it out.
I already went out of it, so you're gonna have to look.
2374 divided by how many? 12,686. 12,686 gives us 18%. Still not great.
18%.
Pretty bad. But
Pretty
still better than Duluth.
El Horchito. That's what I call that. El Horchito. Okay, let's stay on outstate Minnesota for a little bit.
Okay.
Where's Caledonia, Minnesota?
Caledonia. Is that a
Wait,
place?
let's go to a place I know, Ogilvie, Minnesota.
Ogilvie.
Yes, that's on the way to
Yes. That's,
Mille Lacs.
Yes, it is.
School board member elect 3.
Huh.
I don't know if this is at large or not. 2,187 registered voters. The leading vote getter got 195 votes. The third place finisher got 140. So 140 votes out of 2,187 to represent you on the school board.
Yeah.
Don't even do the math on that. It is El Stinkity Doodah.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here looking and looking and looking, and there are election after election going on, or ballot questions going on. How about Isanti County, Isanti School District, Isanti Cambridge School District 911? They had a ballot question. 20,418 registered voters. The yes wins with 2,900.
Yeah.
So once again, 2,900 yes votes out of 20,418 registered voters. And again, I mean, we could do this all night. I mean, the point I go back to is how 10, 15, 20%, whatever it is, whatever you want to say about election results in an even year, okay?
Yeah.
And whatever you think about the election process and same-day registration and all the other kind of things that go with it, it's hard to argue. It may be frustrating, but it's hard to argue that whoever wins doesn't at least lay claim to representing the people that they're there.
Right.
Around here, I mean, we went through this with the Robbinsdale School District. Remember when the Robbinsdale School District failed a referendum in an odd year, and then they immediately disrespected that vote?
Yep, and went and did it again.
I mean, the point being, Brooklyn Center passed a referendum like a week before Christmas one year that had failed. And that's the other thing, too. If one of these fails, they can just come right back at you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
And sometimes people are stupid enough to vote for it the second time around, and that's why they do it.
So, I mean, you know, and then you add something like ranked choice voting.
Yeah.
Minneapolis and St. Paul, I couldn't give you an educated guess as to how many people showed up to vote because I still to this day do not understand it.
Right.
I don't get it.
That's on purpose. You're not meant to get it. Then you can't challenge an election because it's messy. You know, they try to put out their formula or whatever and how, you know, this many first.
It don't make no sense.
No.
Here's
well,
what...
there's no reason for it. Whoever gets the most votes wins. It's that simple.
It just eliminates the primary to screw things up. Look at the congressional election in Alaska last year.
Right.
The Democratic candidate who got like 39% of the first place votes. There were two Republicans who combined got like 56%.
Yeah.
Yet somehow the Democrat won through, even though it was clear that a Democrat was not wanted by a majority of but because ranked choice voting eliminates primaries.
Yep.
Both Republican candidates ended up on the ballot. It was divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So that's another issue going on, is that we have that on top of it.
Absolutely. And then you have places like Minneapolis where it's all Democrats and Green Party and Socialist Party, and the one Republican doesn't stand a chance anyway.
Well,
you just pick your favorite Democrat.
It's communist, socialist, Mao Zedong supporter, Joseph Stalin IV.
Right.
That's what it is.
Captain Jack Sparrow.
Well, yeah.
He's usually
Bob
on there.
again.
Yeah.
That's what it is in Minneapolis. It's pretty bad all around, but I can't even get a voter turnout idea of it.
Yeah.
So, Jay, let me ask you something here before we can do the numbers in this all night. You're going to get the same result everywhere.
Yeah.
I want to say, outside of a state law that changes all this, which I think is unlikely, if anything, we're moving in the wrong direction electorally than we are in the right direction.
Yes.
What should be done to change this? What should be done? Forget Minneapolis, Duluth, and St. Paul for a minute.
Yeah.
All the other cities, though. What has to be done to get this changed?
Well, I agree with what you said earlier. Having a constitutional amendment to say this is when we vote in Minnesota.
So that has to be on the ballot then to be right.
It would have to be passed, which it would have a hard time because I think Minneapolis would run a campaign that.
Well, but to Minneapolis, 80% of the people don't come and turn out, but they might in a even year. Would they all vote?
It's a nonpartisan question.
but it'll be a partisan.
But it'll be embraced by Democrats because they they get their unions mobilized. Because this is what happens with these odd year elections, and why they stay in the odd year, because the left has people that, for the most part, I mean, there are some cities on the list like, I don't know, Benson, that should be in a very red area. Lionel Lakes trends conservative. They have odd year elections, which I don't understand. But generally, because they can control the outcome and they can get their unions mobilized, they can get their special interests mobilized in places like Duluth, Minneapolis, St. Paul, St. Louis Park, all of these places.
Okay, but they do that at even years too.
Yeah, but there's less competition because they know nobody comes out. It's so much easier to sway an election when you have 10, 11, 18% of the registered voters voting than when you have 55% of the registered voters voting.
Well, I mean, I can't disagree there. But, I mean, to me, if you get your people out, you get your people out. I don't know. But okay, but back up a second, though. So, again, obviously, a constitutional amendment, I mean, that's, who knows what that would entail. What else can we do to change this? I mean, you're living in Golden Valley, you're living in Hopkins, you're living in Minnetonka. Where do you start to change all this crap?
Yeah, well, I mean, all of these cities, I don't know. I guess we'd have to look. I would assume that there is a mixture of, like St. Louis Park, home rule charter cities, and statutory cities, probably like Benson. I would assume, with it being a smaller town, a smaller city, it's very likely that's a statutory city, and so it's something. It's going to be hard to get all of those cities and school districts on the same page, and that's why I know I feel dirty saying that it has to come from the state level.
Well, state makes statutory law. And they do everything else they want to statutory A and B cities. So
yeah,
I'll tell you one thing that has to happen though is step one. You got to start participating in these elections.
Well, that would be a huge deal.
I mean,
yeah,
I'm assuming that there's more than 7,000 Republicans in Duluth.
Right.
If they all wanted to come out and vote, they could control the city and make this change.
Absolutely. And you think for a moment that if Republicans started winning these races in blue areas, that Democrats would leave the election on an odd year?
Yeah.
They would change it to an even year faster than.
No doubt about it. Yeah. But again, for me, the issue isn't who wins; it's representation and being fair.
Right, and that's the whole idea of moving it to the even year.
So, I mean, like you said too, charter changes. I mean, you can petition to have a charter question on the ballot. I mean, can't you do that too?
Yeah.
I mean, you can. You'd be surprised, though. I'll tell you one thing, though. I remember when Robbinsdale Schools made the switch from odd to even. It was not done with a conservative.
Right.
I mean, my objection to that was they all gave themselves another year in office, and I don't think they have the authority to do that.
No.
I think that was legally questionable.
Right.
But ultimately, in the long run, I'd support the change. But I mean, point being, there's no bastion of conservatism there, showing that this can be a nonpartisan thing,
right?
And it should be. Here's the question: why is everything so dang partisan?
Well, I think it has to be when. In our country, we are headed rapidly over the cliff of progressive thought. And in order for the progressives to be able to get their way, they have to get rid of conservatism. Are you ever going to uproot it completely? No. But you have to be able to outsmart, outlast, do whatever you can to make everything partisan, to make conservatives hated on every issue. You have to, as a progressive, be able to do that. And whether you're speaking in terms of things that are true or not, you frame these arguments because it's a marketing point.
Yeah, I just wish we could see people, and that's one of the things I like about local elections. I mean, and I, point to like the Robbinsdale School District as an example. When you don't have a party label and
Right.
you don't have a majority whip coming to count the votes and threaten you with a primary if you vote a certain way, it's amazing what can get accomplished.
Yeah.
I mean, it is possible to get things like that accomplished. And, so I would just throw out there that I don't understand why it's so left versus right. I mean, and you're right. I mean, if Republicans were winning in Minneapolis, they'd switch it to even years like that.
Right.
But that's the wrong reason to do it. I mean, that's, it just...
Yeah. It should just be done based on the Prince could organize in these places and actually start swaying elections a little bit. Yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar that Democrats would switch that to an even year faster than.
Now I gotta look at something
Yeah.
here. I gotta look at least a little bit. We gotta look at Minneapolis and St. Paul a little bit and see if we can interpret these results.
Yeah.
Because what is the rule with ranked choice voting? What happens on the first ballot? Why does it go to a second, a third? I mean, why does it happen?
Well, short answer, it makes it so confusing that nobody else can interpret it.
But is it like, if somebody doesn't get X a percent on the first ballot, kind of like, the conventions.
It's not a runoff.
Okay.
No. You add up the first ballot, second ballot, or it's not even ballot. It's like first choice, third choice, second or third choice. First choice, second choice, third choice. And then each one gets a certain percentage. Like you get a greater percentage for first ballot votes than you do for second, and greater for second than you do for third. And so they're worth all a certain amount. They're weighted, and then you add them together. And so theoretically, if you had enough second and third choice votes, you could overtake somebody who has the most first choice votes. It's just, it's ridiculous.
By the way, where does Bob Carney live? Why is he running for mayor of Minneapolis and for CD1 in the same year?
I don't know.
It's Bob again.
Ugh.
Listen to this cast of characters.
Yeah.
Though, got Marcus Harkis.
Marcus Harkis.
Then we have Kate Knuth.
Kate
Bob
Knuth.
again. Laverne and Shirley. Troy
Bojangles.
Ben Paul Johnson.
Ben
boring
Jagirdis.
Yeah. Paul Johnson and Doug Nelson.
Well,
then you
they're
got
boring.
Sheila Neshead.
A.J.
Awed. Nate Honeybadger Aitkins.
Yeah. You know him.
Do I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Christopher W. David, not to be confused with Christopher Z. David. Mike Winter. Of course, we have Amber Fry.
Yeah.
Kevin Nobody Ward. Then we have Clint Connor, Mark Glabus, and Perry Jarrell.
Huh.
What a cast of characters.
Oh, yes.
For Minneapolis mayor. I mean, you could make that up in Hollywood.
No. Oh, that's
so then it
pretty
just
good.
goes through all of this.
Yeah.
First, second. I mean, I don't even know. How do you declare a winner? There's not even a winner declared here.
No. I have no idea how that works. I see where Jacob Fry got twice the vote of anybody else. The next
on the
runner-up on the first ballot was Sheila Neshead with 30,000 when he had 61,000. But then you go back down here to the second ballots where Fry has 12,800 and Sheila had 21,519, and the third ballot were
Sorry, I'm laughing at I'm looking through it, seeing if I could pronounce some of the names.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah,
Would be good.
Fry had 10,800. Sheila had 7,900 on the third ballot. So they're weighted, and then it's just all goofiness. So
look at this name. Do me a favor, Jake.
Yeah.
Go down to Council Ward Member 7.
oh boy,
Take that first name and try to
Ward 3. Oh, I got to scroll through 3 ballots on all of these. My word.
I'm gonna take a shot at it first.
Hold on. Ward 10, Ward 9. I passed it up. Ward 7.
Look at that first name.
Yeah.
It's
Have at it.
Hold on. It's Tezquend Zia Alada.
Tekanazea Ida. I don't know. That's what I would say. But
Oh.
yeah, that's. I don't know.
Hey, by the way, we got to look at St. Paul because we got to see if Rebecca Knocker was on the ballot.
Yeah, maybe.
Now, here's the thing about St. Paul.
Yeah.
I go to the first. Why is there not a second choice, third choice? Why was only the mayor up? Milton County? Because I don't see anything else here.
Oh my goodness. In St. Paul, what?
Where were the second and
My
third?
goodness. First choice, second choice, third choice, fourth choice, fifth choice, sixth choice.
Why are they all blank?
6 choices. Yeah, they're all blank except for the first choice. He must have cleared a certain threshold. I don't know.
Well, you did clear 50%.
Well, yeah. He had 36,426, and the next closest one was Paul Langfield, it looks like, with 5,298. Oh, no, sorry. Down here, Dino Guerin was 7,454. So, yeah, not even close.
Well, here's my question, too.
Yeah.
If you go to the 2019 results, they all have the first ballot here on the Secretary of State.
Yeah.
They do not have anything after that.
Again. Huh.
Because we've got Deitau, Rebecca Knocker, Chris Tolbert, oh boy, Mitra Jalali Nelson.
What? Okay.
Then we have Amy Breedmoen, Nosy Yang, and Jane Prince. So it's weird that none of them are up. None of them were up in 2021, but they're all up in 2023. But Mayor Carter isn't.
Well, he was up in 21, so he'll be up again in 25, I
Right,
guess.
but I mean, it's just kind of strange. So that means old Rebecca Knocker is up this year.
Yeah. You know who else is up this year?
Who's that?
A good friend of yours.
Why are they all
St. Louis Park.
Oh, Jake the Snake?
Jake the Snake. Not running for re-election.
Really? Where'd you hear that?
I saw it in the St. Louis Park paper. So it must be true.
Well, he must have somebody handpicked to take his place.
Well, I would
Sure, they
assume
have somebody in line to
Yeah.
do so. Maybe since he's the Deputy Secretary of State or something like that, he's got a job in that office. Maybe it's too much work fixing elections there that he has to go there now.
Maybe.
Take ranked choice voting up the line.
Right. Well, I will say St. Louis Park is one of those cities, just like Robbinsdale, just like Minneapolis, St. Paul, Golden Valley, where people who we don't agree with at all seem to leave, and people who are even worse come behind them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's some truth to that. Yeah. There's definitely some truth to that. Golden Valley is a good example. It just gets worse.
Goodness.
Worse and,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. But I mean, you also have to. Obviously, they're leaving with a successor in place, and I mean that's part of politics. You leave, you recruit somebody to take your place. That's happened since the beginning of time. And if another group or side doesn't want to do that, then they don't have much right to whine and complain about it.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know, but I think St. Louis Park is pretty brutal. A pretty brutal place. I just so glad I don't live there.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we do have to set foot in there once in a while.
Oh, yeah. That's all right. You just got to strap up like with a hazmat suit. And
well, maybe Jake the Snake's got a job with like some global cities conglomerate or something.
Oh, maybe. Maybe.
I'm sure there's something. I'm sure he's got something planned. Maybe somebody's not running for legislature next year. He knows.
Oh, that could be.
He knows something or other. Although I don't know what district. That district, I think, is split. The A and B, I think, is split. St. Louis Park, I think, is divided. So I don't know where he lives. So it could be that too. But yeah, I mean, just to think, 20-something years ago, Norm Coleman was the mayor of St. Paul.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a lot different than than you'd think it is, and I don't know. I don't know what's going to change big cities. I think a third party is what's going to change big cities. I think that the Republican name is so poisonous in big cities. I think Republicans have abandoned them. I believe anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you have a couple. Like Miami has a Republican mayor.
And Ron DeSantis did very well down there.
Yeah.
Won that county.
Yeah.
Won Miami-Dade County, which was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I think you have a couple exceptions. I guess I was thinking of big cities in Minnesota. But
oh, yeah.
You've got a handful of exceptions to that. But I think, unfortunately, it has to be done at the bottom, not the top.
Right.
A presidential candidate's not going to do it. I guarantee you, Ron DeSantis winning Miami was years in the making of people down there. I'd like to see. I mean, the people before DeSantis, probably you could see the vote going up. Previous Rick Scott and the previous governors there.
Right.
I think you probably see that. You saw that in Ohio with both Governor DeWine and J.D. Vance, who did won by a bigger margin than expected, but carrying the Cincinnati area, both of them.
Right.
Which was, that's a big city, kind of a dumpy city, in my opinion. I mean, it's not a very nice place to go, Cincinnati. Yeah. But it's interesting how you have seen that change. You've seen that change in Iowa. You saw Governor Reynolds carry the whole state. You saw every congressional district is now flipped Republican, including Des Moines. I mean, and this is a state that in 2012 Barack Obama won.
Yeah. So
it can change. But my thing is it has to change from the lower level, not the top.
Right.
Just the top of the ticket. There's no way a governor candidate or presidential candidates can spend the amount of time needed if there's no organization below them.
Right.
They're farting in wind. Though they could move it a point or two, 3 points. They can move the needle a little, but they can't move it much if there's just nothing down there. I mean, case in point was here in Minnesota last year. You had no Republican organization in Hennepin County. You had legislative candidates going unopposed. You had county attorney races, county sheriff races. How in the world can a governor candidate overtake that? It's just not possible. It's not even possible. Now, could they have moved it another point or two? Maybe.
Yeah.
But there's no way with no ground game that can happen. So again, you just choose whatever communist on the ballot. So I mean, look. All I can say, okay, you all have to start organizing on local elections and stop trying to be right. Stop arguing with each other.
Yeah.
Okay, and start winning elections. It doesn't matter what you believe if you lose. So point being, you got to get into a position of power. You got to, the commissions are important. Like we say all the time, Jay, get on those planning boards, get on those charter commissions where you can have something of a voice.
Right.
You have weight under you if you want to run for something in the future. So, I mean, it's a year's change in the making. But you're right. This year we're going to see it. What the worst part is? The worst part is eliminating primaries for these, which is fine with me because even less people would show up to that. But then some of them hold out, signing up for the election until July or August, and they start voting in September.
I know.
It's like, well, come on.
Yeah, people vote for these races. The few that do, and they've never heard anything from these candidates. They've never met the candidates.
How can you organize
research?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing: if you're going to run, you got to be doing all that stuff now.
Right.
Next week's too late. All of it has to start now. Raising money, logos, websites, social media. Hell, it should have been a month ago.
Right.
Should have been 2 months ago. The earlier, the gooder.
Absolutely.
So I think again, if anything's going to change, it's got to be from within. Yeah, I have no confidence in our state government. Won't have any confidence. Won't have, even when I'm governor, I won't have confidence in them because I'm going to veto everything.
Right.
So, these changes are going to be difficult and they're going to take time.
Yeah.
But you might be surprised. It needs to just start going in that direction. It's not doing it. It's not going fast enough. It just simply isn't.
Yeah. Now, we the people, except we the people aren't selecting or electing who's to be our leader in the next election in an odd year. It's just a few. Yeah. And I don't understand how we're okay with that. To go back to the point from the beginning, there is so much fact DC for the most part. So much money in taxes, so much regulation, so much that comes down, and we just kind of write it off.
Well, or we get angry and then forget all about it. You've often told the story about filling up the city council, and then a year later, everybody just goes back. St. Louis Park, great example. Remember the whole hubbub about the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yep.
And, I mean, national press was deluged on St. Louis Park.
Yep.
And what happened that odd year election? Nothing. So it can happen. You can fill up a room. Organized garbage hauling in New Hope. What happened there? 100 people show up and then no one runs. I mean, that's not an odd year, but then no one runs.
Right. It happens over and over and over and over. We've seen it. People are so mad that they disengage and don't do anything. And so does that solve your problem? No, it just gets worse.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's brutal. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Again, folks, we can read this stuff all day too. You can go to the Secretary of State's page and see it all. But there you have it. There you have, the evidence in front of you about, how little voter participation there is and how these people claim to be the mayor and the council person and 10% of the people vote for a referendum. I mean, come on. That's just, that's just absurd. It's just a disgrace. And I hope it changes and continues to change. I have no hope for the three big cities, but I do have hope for other ones. I
Yeah.
do think that, and you saw a referendum pass out in Benson. Maybe that'll continue to happen. I hope it does.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see, but I don't know how much confidence I have.
Well, we shall find out. Only time will tell whether we will get our act together and do what we need to do instead of always doing what we'd like to do.
It gets bad all around, I think, sometimes, Jay. But just keep that in
Right.
mind. By the way, you look it up at the Secretary of State's page. If you're one of those cities, there's other cities, Falcon Heights, Bloomington. We mentioned St. Peter.
Hopkins.
Minnetonka.
Golden
Some
Valley
huge
has-
cities,
yeah.
some really big cities that have elections coming up or school board elections. You look that up and you stay informed. You don't go to sleep on these elections. You just simply can't.
Right.
All right, Jay. What's that? What are you going to enlighten us with here? You said you were saving something for the sermon.
Yes.
I'll do the usual introduction here. Styling and profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheel and dealing, son of a gun, Jason Bradley. Let's hear it.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Yeah, at the beginning of the show, I know it was a little self-serving, but,
Which you'd never do.
this is our show. I'm putting out music. You guys are going to find out about it because it doesn't do me any good to just be quiet about it. But beyond that, this song was an important one on the album. I think about passages like, in 2 Timothy 3, where it talks about, like, in the last days, the people are going to love themselves and their money. They'll be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents and ungrateful. And we're always, I think, in our generation, taught to honor your parents, for this is right, But yet, today we see people that don't honor anybody. They don't show any honor whatsoever. Whatever they want, whatever they feel, that comes first. And don't you get in their way, or you are so guilty of being hating, gender phobic. You know the thing, right? You know the thing. Here's the problem.
A homophobe.
Oh yeah, all of it.
homophobes.
All of it. Yes, you're racist, you're a monster. Anyways, the left has done such a masterful job at creating this structure, this complex at which we submit to. We allow ourselves to be able to be chastised and demonized, and instead of standing against it and saying, no, your construct, what says that that's right? That's your point of view. It's not my point of view, and it bears no more credence than mine does. We have allowed them to dictate the conversation, to dictate the language, the definitions of things, and we have let them create a society that is rife with dishonor. And this song that I wrote, Our Troubled Hearts, really the entire album, I mean, when I think about it, we have to honor one another. We have to love one another. And we've got kids today that they don't know one thing from another. They're off doing whatever. You can't tell. Is that a boy? Is it a girl? How do they identify? Oh, I better not call them the wrong thing. And they're just kind of spoiled. If I can say that. If you stand in their way, they don't get their way, then you're going to get canceled. You're going to get kicked to the sideline. You're going to have your reputation destroyed, your career destroyed. You're going to be erased off of social media. And that is really our fault. Those of us who are a little older, for not raising them the right way, to have honor and to take care of their parents, to take care of their grandparents. We gave them the participation trophies. We gave them the, oh, I'm so sorry, you poor thing. We caved. We never should have. Yes, as their parents, we should love them and we should raise them in such a way where they believe that they can do anything or they have the opportunity to do anything anyway, so long as they put their mind to it and they work hard. But not that you're guaranteed anything, not that you're owed anything, not that you are so much better than anybody else, that people should bow down and worship the ground that you walk on. That's where we made mistakes, where we made everything all about our kids, and we're carting them all over the state, for traveling sports teams when 99% of them are not even going to play at the collegiate level. Instead, they're not going to church because they're traveling the state on weekends. Instead, they're not having family time with home-cooked meals. Instead, they're not learning how to do chores and to interact with, to go and honor their grandparents, to spend time with cousins, to build family, to go play outside and just have fun instead of being in front of a screen. As kids, we remember we were dumb. The whole world could fall down around us, and we would never be the wiser. We were always, when we were young, just like the young are now, pretty self-concerned, self-centered. But we had good parents that showed us the way. And as we got older and matured, we realized some things, and we came back around to some of the principles that our parents had. That's not happening in this generation. We didn't pass our principles on. And so those of us with troubled hearts, it's time for us to get back to basics and be good parents and grandparents. And it's not too late to go to your green-haired he/she with a name like Sprinkled Unicorn or whatever and say, hey, I've got to be honest with you. You're a boy. You were born a boy. You have the parts of a boy in every gene. You have an X and a Y chromosome. You're a boy. And someday you're going to be a man, and here's how you need to handle things. We need to have those discussions as parents. It's not too late. And we can help them see the value of loving one another and doing right by one another, rather than being so self-centered. But it's going to take a movement, and it's going to take all of us to come together and be those kinds of people, and then go into government, go into business, go into education, go into the churches, go into arts and entertainment, go into the family, go into media, and do it differently, to bring back honesty, to bring back honor. We can do this, but we need your help. So get a hold of us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. And we will be more than willing to help get the ball rolling, to coach you through if you're looking at running a race, to help you with strategy, to be able to help you set up your own podcast empire. We're here. So get a hold of us. The time is short, but it is not over. We can do this. I believe in you. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn to get to work. get too caught